Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Thought I would sit down and do a video for you guys and gals, and let me give you guys a bicep shot first. Mount biceps. Alright, let's get in and talk about this topic. Alright, I want to state up front, disclaimer, I am not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you how to live your life. I am not discussing this even fully from a practical application. When I discuss testosterone, I want to be clear. Spending a lot of time worried about your normal production for people who are in the normal healthy range, like if you're not physiologically low, like clinically low, or you don't plan on going on anything, your testosterone is probably not going to have a particularly significant impact on your muscle growth, your gains, your body composition. I want to be clear there. When it's clinically low, it will matter. If you see enormous jumps inside the normal range, it will matter a little bit. But it's not going to make a massive difference. It's not like when people go on copious amounts and they're using 3, 5, 10, 20 times the amount the body produces. Okay, that's different. If you're in the normal range, to even see, according to the data, any improvement in muscle mass, like a measurable amount, you almost need to double. Okay, so in other words, if you're at the low end of the healthy range, 400-ish nanograms per deciliter, that's still well inside the healthy range. That's not low. You're actually considered perfectly healthy there, even for a young man. All right, to only go up to 500 is not going to make any difference. It's not going to affect your muscle growth at all. Going up to 700, 800, you start getting close to doubling, there is a measurable difference, but we're talking like maybe 5 to 10% increase in your muscle growth over what you were already making. So in other words, you're maybe 10.5 pounds of muscle gained in a year instead of 1, if you're still like an intermediate. Okay, it's not going to put 5 pounds of muscle on you. So we need to be clear on that. It could be worth a couple pounds over several years, but it's not massive. So disclaimer. So what I'm discussing is purely informative of kind of the social dynamic of how social interactions affect testosterone based upon studies we've looked at for like the past 20 years. Okay, social factors matter, and it makes sense from a survival of the species perspective, mate selection, men producing who are more desirable mates, producing maybe more pheromones and things so that women find them slightly more attractive, right? So the whole idea has to do with, again, survival of the species. Sorry about that. There's a plane flying. I live pretty close to a small airfield. We just deal with it. So these things matter, and a lot of it has to do with winning and losing. Also your team, because a lot of things that happen, if you look at tribal life, we always cared about our tribe. That was our team for most of human existence. Okay, we've only become the larger society that we are in a relatively recent time frame. It's a very modern situation. Modern civilization, even the post-agricultural one, is relatively new. Okay, so that tribal life, that context mattered. So your team mattered. And that meant even inside the tribe. All right. So what we find, winning makes your testosterone go up, losing makes it go down. And I'm talking about your team, not just you. We can talk about you at the personal level. Sports teams, that's your tribe. Okay? And I think that's the reason men get so emotional about it, because it affects their hormone levels. That's my theory. Now, what we know based on the data, if your team wins, your testosterone spikes, and it can stay spiked for a couple days, okay, a day or two. So if you're cheering for your football team, right, and they win, testosterone goes up. Doesn't double, but it goes up immeasurable, something like I've seen some data say maybe 20 or 30%. That's significant, and it could stay there a little while. I mean, up to a couple days. So if your team wins, the team you're cheering for wins, you're more virile. If your team loses, goes down. So I would say with that, rooting for the underdog is going to make your testosterone go down if they lose, because you're not on the side of the winners. Winners produce more testosterone. Not my opinion. This is what they find in studies. Winning is good for testosterone. Your team winning, your tribe, the leader you support. Okay? Ooh. But again, we come over to that thing of why do men get so upset when their team loses? Maybe because there's an immediate hormonal response, and they've learned over time, subconsciously, your hormones respond. They respond to if your team wins or loses. Well, it's going to have an effect on your personality, on your mood. Testosterone up, you feel good, you feel dominant, right? Ready to go take your woman? You lose, you get depressed, you get whiny. They cry, they throw temper tantrums because their testosterone just dropped suddenly. Same thing with elections. Person you vote for, when they win, your testosterone goes up. They lose, it goes down. Also, having a pregnant wife or a newborn baby makes your testosterone go down. Now that's an interesting one. That has to do with possibly men not out straying. People say, wouldn't you want to be able to protect more? No, it keeps men more loyal. Because they're not out chasing strange punani. Because the testosterone's going down a little bit. They're more likely to stay close to home. Again, survival of the species. Survival of the species. So yeah, actually a lot of exposure to babies appears to be a factor. All right, winning and losing a game matters. And this has been studied, I think, in checkers, if I recall, years ago. People who won a checkers match, their testosterone went up. The men who lost a match, it went down. It went down. Okay? That's interesting. Again, winners and losers. People who win more often tend to be on the winning side, competitive. More testosterone means higher sex drive, higher pheromone production. More likely to be attractive. Again, just interesting factors. Other ones, I'm not going to go into this video into porn or anything else, and this one will be less popular. Weapons. When a man physically touches something that he personally perceives as a weapon, not saying it has to be a weapon, because something could be a tool, it could be a weapon. Again, a baseball bat, perfect example. You see a baseball bat as a tool for a sport, doesn't necessarily produce its effect. If you see it as something you pick up as a weapon, it will boost your testosterone. Temporarily. It's a very, very, very short-term response. Now, could that be for survivability purposes? Could be why, right? Because you might have to fight for your life, and that's a point where that a little bit of extra aggression may come in handy. And that's just a hypothesis there. But again, yeah, I thought this was an interesting topic to cover and that people might enjoy, so I thought I'd just briefly go over it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.